On today's show, we are joined by a guest who's going to teach you how to sharpen your marketing message so that you can cut through the noise and win more ideal clients.
Clavers, let me tell you what an ideal client looks like to me.
Tell us.
If a client's money's green,
Okay.
then I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I'll do anything for my clients. I don't care about my personal life. I'll take any client at any time, and that's how I grew my business. And
That's great, but the purpose of a business is to build an organization that will serve you so that you can create both time freedom and financial freedom so that you can spend your time doing whatever you want to do.
Well, Clavers, I'm more of a means to an end guy. I'll do whatever I need to do, which is why I wrote this little ditty. This little ditty is called Smoke Your Way to Thin. And I dedicate this song to Monica, who encouraged me to lose the weight. And I lost every single pound as a result of smoking my way to thin. All right, I need some more snare in my headphones here. All right, way to thin. Well, I used to weigh a lot. Now I do not. 'Cause I smoked my way to thin. Everybody now. I used to weigh a lot. Now I'm preferred at the smoke shop, 'cause I smoked my way to thin. It's all about a means to an end. I used to have that gravy. Now I smoke my way to thin.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women. 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom.
Yes, 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 and yes. Thrive Nation, on today's show, you are going to love our guest, Bill Cates. How in the heck are you?
I'm doing well, and in case just they thought they heard Bill Gates, we don't want to upset them. It's Cates with a C. Sorry about that.
I don't want any of your listeners I don't want you to think our listeners are let down. A lot of our listeners they're kind of bored with Bill Gates at this point. They want Bill Cates. That's what they want. They want Bill Cates.
Well, here's the deal. Here's the deal, Clay. Bill Gates may have a lot of money. I'm going to help them make a lot of money.
Okay. Now you've waged war. I'm excited. This is going to be a great sparring match. So let's talk about this for a second. You have had success now. We get it. But can we go back to the beginning? Tell us how you started and how you've been able to achieve your success.
Wow, that's a big question because it depends on how far you want to go back. I toured the country as a drummer in a rock and roll band in a past life.
Really?
Yeah, but I did a talent assessment after a few years, and I figured I'd be playing Holiday Inns the rest of my life, and that was unacceptable. So I moved into the business world. But essentially, I started and sold a couple of pretty successful book publishing companies, and I was doing that for about a decade, and was looking for the next thing to do. And a buddy of mine said, you should be a writer, a speaker. You've learned a lot. You're great on stage. I go, well, okay. What does that look like? And this is way back when not everybody and their mother wasn't a speaker and an author like it is now. And and so I finally got into the world. I joined the National Speakers Association. I wrote my first book on referrals in '95, and it's been a great trip ever since.
How do you go about starting a book publication business? Somebody out there has no idea what a book publication business looks like. And all of our listeners are entrepreneurs. So, I mean, what does it look like to be a book publication business, and how did you go about starting that?
Yeah, so I was actually I was on a flight somewhere, and I was bored, and I was reading a copy of Atlantic Monthly. That's how bored I was. And
oh, wow.
There was an advertorial in there. It's the ads that look like an article.
Yeah.
And the title of it was, and this was a long time ago now. We got to remember this was like in 1980, so I'm dating myself. The title of this, or the headline, was "Dollars in Your Mailbox." And I'm going, well, that's interesting. Who wouldn't want dollars in their mailbox? And it was all about how to sell information through the mail. So, long before info marketing, if you will, the way it is now on the internet, it was done all through the mail. And people would put classified ads and, space ads in the back of magazines and sell things. And it was about this guy who wrote a book about how to get rid of gophers, and he sold millions and millions of copies of this book. And then he was teaching people how to write a book or how to buy books from other people and how to sell information, precursor to what you see on the internet now. And so I was working for an airline, so I wrote a book on airline careers. And I started putting it in the back of 17 magazine and other publications. And I learned all the principles of direct marketing. I joined the Direct Marketing Association and just learned all about testing, all about sending out mailers and testing, charging for freight, not charging for freight. You'd be interested to know that the more I charged for the book, the more books I sold. It was amazing, because I guess it was the perceived value, right?
Right.
So that's how I got started with that company. And then I also ended up publishing cookbooks for 9 years, believe it or not. I had a woman who, a woman wanted me to help her self-publish a book. So I did that. And it was a cookbook. And I watched how people, mostly women, but not exclusively, would read cookbooks and just vicariously, derive pleasure through reading the recipes. And I said, I'm on to something here. And so I borrowed $40,000 from my father, which seemed like a lot of money at the time. And I started a cookbook publishing company, and I called it the American Cooking Guild. And I did that for 9 years. I had spinner racks of cookbooks in grocery stores and cooking stores. I did specialty cookbooks for grills and smokers. My biggest sale, and I'm very proud of this, was 400,000 copies.
What?
Yep. I sold 400,000 copies of my book called Hooked on Seafood to Bumblebee Tuna, and they gave it away in grocery
well
stores.
Done. That right there is well done. That is impressive. Okay. So you sold 400,000 copies of a book. Again, what was the book about? This is blowing my mind.
Well, the book was called Hooked on Seafood. It was a fairly small book. That's how they could, give it away. But it was seafood recipes, and they actually had me add a few recipes with canned tuna and canned salmon, which, it bothered the author at first, but until she saw the royalty check she was going to get. And so then she put it in. And man, that was fun watching those printing presses run for about 18 hours.
Was this the book by Nana Whalen?
Nana Whalen, yeah.
Nana Whalen, okay. Andrew,
out of Annapolis, yep.
Andrew, let's buy a copy of this right now. I don't want to put it off. I
don't know if you can anymore. Is there someone selling it online?
It has 2 ratings. And it came out paperback in 1982, and I love to have. I'll get the book, and then everybody I've ever had on the show, I'll buy your book, and I put a green sticker. Kindle, if you can look at it, I put a green sticker on the books. That way I can keep track of the people we've had on the show. That's kind of my thing I do, and I love buying books. So you built this company.
Yep.
You borrowed how much money from your dad? You said
$40,000.
And then you sold 400,000 books. Things did well. So then how did you exit out of that business? Did you sell it to a dude? Is there a big market for selling book publishing companies or what?
Well, it was, God, it is online. I just saw it. There's somebody selling for $18, but there's cheaper. I think the retail was $3 back then.
Oh, I'm going to pay.
But in any event, I sold it to a guy. He was actually an accountant, and his wife was a graphic artist, and they just loved the business. They fell in love with it, and he particularly fell in love with the possibility of the specialty books, which is what I did for Bumblebee Tuna. I did a specialty book for American greeting cards, cookies around Christmas, and I did a bunch of. So that's the direction they took the business in. Not so much the retail, which I had a lot of retail, but it was a specialty. And then he sold that again.
Yep.
After about 5 years, and I did speak to the third owner of the company. I do believe they're out of business, so I don't think the company exists anymore.
Now you have.
But I'll tell you. Can I tell you a quick story?
No, tell me. You can tell me a long story too. I love hearing from Bill Cates.
It relates to my newest book and about the idea of relevance. Yeah. And the reason I say this is because when I started this book, this company, it wasn't doing that well. I was having trouble getting these large accounts and to produce books, specialty books for these folks. The retail was doing okay, but even that wasn't great. And my company name at the time was WRC Publishing, William Richard Cates, big deal, and that didn't mean anything except for my parents. And then I woke up one morning, I said, I got to change the name of this company. It's got to represent what I'm offering. And so I changed it to the American Cooking Guild. And I mean, who would you buy a book from, a cookbook from? WRC Publishing or the American Cooking Guild? And all of a sudden, everything like changed almost overnight because it just added some gravitas to the books and to the company. And sometimes, and that's about having the right name of your company that's relevant to your market and to your product or service.
Did you say WCRP?
WRC. WRC
It was
Publishing.
WRC was the name of your deal. WRC. Do you remember WKRP?
Oh, I remember WKRP.
If it's okay for a second, my dad and I, because my dad used to work the night shifts, and when he would come back from working the night shift at Quick Trip, we would watch this show reruns, and so I have to play it right now, because every time I have an excuse to play the theme song, I do. If the listeners out there, if you know it, please feel free to sing along. We'll come back in about 40 seconds here. I want to make sure I cue this up. This is powerful stuff. Then I want to talk about your new book, but let me just cue up the intro here. I got to get the intro. I think I got it. Here we go. I think this is it. Oh, yeah. Kind of a Doobie Brothers kind of a vibe to it.
Yeah, it makes you think of Cincinnati, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Baby, if you've ever wondered,
Oh, yeah.
wondered whatever became of me.
Come on now.
I'm living on the air in Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah.
Cincinnati, WKRP.
Oh, yeah.
Got kind of tired of packing and unpacking.
Cowbell.
Turn around,
Work out
down the dial.
Here we go.
You and me were never meant to be. Just maybe think of me once in a while.
Here we go, to the end. Oh, come on now. Oh, man, all we need is some flute to take it to the next level. We had some jazz flute, we would be there. Get your roller skates out. Here we go.
Heading up that highway, leaving you behind.
Verse 2. Here we go.
Hardest thing I ever had to do.
No one knows this part.
The price for finding me was
WRC.
Memories help me hide my lonesome feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Far away from
Order
you.
that cookbook right now. Get that cookbook.
I think there's only 2 copies in the world.
Only 2 copies in the world. You can buy them right now. Here we go. We're going to the chorus one more time. Andrew, buy that book. There's only 2 copies left. We got to get this book. WRC Publishing. Don't let the dream die. Bill Cates. Radical Relevance, folks. How to sharpen your marketing message. Tip 1. Listen to WKRP soundtracks on your podcast. Yeah. Oh, man. Andrew, give us some cowbell. Really lay into that cowbell. Just let it happen. Just, here we go. Oh, maybe double time. You know that? Oh.
All right, this song goes out to all the ladies out there. WKRP in Cincinnati. WRC on your bookshelf.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever became of me.
Everybody now.
I'm living on the air in Cincinnati.
Everybody.
Cincinnati, WKRP.
Come on now. Oh, come on, Andrew. Don't get tired. We got 30 seconds left. Tired.
Down, up and down the dial.
Push yourself.
We need more cowbell.
More cowbell. More cowbell. Oh.
Just maybe think of me once in a while.
Come on, Andrew.
I'm a WKRP in Cincinnati.
Holy cow.
Oh, we did something right there. That's what makes America great. Okay, now, Radical. They're not doing that in China. No, they're not. Now,
Do you remember the name of the salesman on the show?
I don't remember the name of the salesman.
Herb Karlick.
See, I was so young. I just remember that this was my time. My dad and I would gather around. I didn't know what was going on. I was probably 9 or 10. It's 3 in the morning. I don't know what's going on. All I know is that would come on, and I'd sing along, and it stuck in my head. So that was a little flashback there. So big shout out to Tom Clark. Okay, so now how to sharpen your marketing message, cut through the noise, and win more ideal clients. I thought to make today's show fun, I would have 2 of my ideal clients, longtime clients, on the show with us. So Corey Minter, meet Bill Cates here. Corey Minter. Bill
How
Cates.
are you, Bill?
I'm doing well, Corey.
Great to meet you, man.
And Bill, if you're scoring at home, we also have Josh Wilson. So you got Josh Wilson, if you're Googling him. He owns Living Water Irrigation, and Corey Minter has Trinity Employment. I've worked with Corey for probably almost 8 years at this point. Josh for about 2.5 years or so. And so your book, Radical Relevance, Sharpen Your Marketing Message, Cut Through the Noise, and Win More Ideal Clients. Can we start by breaking down what is an ideal client and what's a bad client?
Sure. Well, I like to use the term right fit client because a right fit client is kind of like your soulmate in business, right? It's the client you were meant to serve. It was the person or business meant to be served by you. They appreciate your value for all the right reasons that you want to be appreciated. They're obviously the easiest to work with, and they're usually the most profitable because they're easier to work with and they appreciate the work you do. So, for 25 years, I've been teaching people how to get more referrals, how to get introduced to more people, and I still do that. But sometimes that's about quantity, and I think it's time to talk a little bit about quality and making sure you're bringing in the right people for your business. And it makes business so much more fulfilling and so much more enjoyable when you're bringing in the right people.
Seth Godin, one of my favorite authors who we've had on the show, he talks about if the clients that you accept ultimately determine your level of happiness if you do consulting of some kind. So if you take on a client that is ridiculous, your life will be ridiculous because they do ridiculous things. So Josh with Living Water as an example, this guy, he comes to the weekly meetings, he knocks out all of his action items. His business has grown from, I think, 300,000 to we're almost at 1.9 for the year, 1.8 for the year.
1.8.
And that is awesome to grow from 300,000 to 1.8 million dollars in 2 years. But let me tell you all the times we've argued with each other.
Right.
None. Why? Because it's like he's the boss. I get it. He asks me what works. I tell him he does it. And if he doesn't want to do it, it's his thing. But we don't sit there and argue about our opinions of it. And I think somebody out there has the wrong fit clients. What do you say to somebody who's not a right fit client? Because so far, every time I've tried to tell somebody they're not a right fit, with exceptions, it doesn't go very well. When I'm like, hey, I know you want to pay me. I know you've done your research. I know you're ready to go, but I can't. I've tried the I'm not available move.
Sometimes they turn around and try to sell you on working with them, right?
They do every time. I'm like, no, not good. So how do you, what are the words we should say?
Essentially, what you need to do is you got to do what's right for the client. And if they're not right for you, then you're definitely not right for them. And so you really just should not take on those lose-lose situations. So what I like to do is I like to talk about the types of people I work the best with, and it's what I teach other people to do. And you just drive your criteria, and quite often they'll self-select themselves out because they realize they don't fit who you serve the best. But ultimately, you got to learn to say no. And over time, I've fired clients. Sometimes I've had people want to do coaching with me, and I say, look, I just don't think I'm the right person for you. And but this is it. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. This is not going to be a good match. And you're gonna hate me, after a couple of phone calls. So let's just part ways. And and that's what you got to do. Now it depends on where in your business, right? When you're first getting started, they fog a mirror, meaning they're breathing. You'll probably work with them, but eventually you got to get to that point where you're in a place of abundance, and have to just take on what fits and what brings you joy. And it's an evolution to that point. It's hard to start that way and go that way from the get-go, but that should be the goal, at least, I think.
I don't want the listeners to think this is weird, but we've talked about what to say when someone's not the right fit. But when someone is the right fit, I like to cue up this little sound clip. And I'm not sure. Are you familiar with the band Kiss?
Sure.
We had Desmond Child on the show. I think, Josh, you were here last week and we interviewed him.
Yes, sir.
He wrote Bon Jovi's stuff, Living on a Prayer. He wrote Kiss. He's
Living La Vida Loca.
Living La Vida Loca, Ricky Martin. Just huge artists. And he wrote the song I Was Made for Loving You. So whenever a client is the right fit, I'll just turn to them and I'll just hit the play button and I'll just sing it to them. I'll just kind of, let me get to the chorus. Come on, give it to me. I want that chorus. Oh, yeah. And I'll just sing it to them. And if they don't run out of the building crying and complaining, I know they're the right fit. That's how I know. I remember singing to Corey, and Corey's going, there's
mesmerizing.
His wife was disturbed. I was disturbed, but we just went ahead and did it. That's how we do it. So, okay, no, but seriously, if someone is the right fit, that's great. That's easy to do. We all know what to do when the client's the right fit. So let's talk about it. What makes you qualified to write this book about radical relevance and how to sharpen your marketing message to cut through the noise and win more ideal clients? What makes you qualified to write this book?
Well, because I quite often we write and teach what we need to know ourselves, right? So a lot of projection going on. Actually, what happened is, so I mentioned for 25 years, I've been teaching folks how to get more referrals and, how to get introduced to their best fit clients, their right fit clients. And what I learned is, first of all, the fastest way to be relevant with a new client or a new customer is through an introduction from someone they already trust, right? When someone they trust introduces you, they will pay attention to you, right? And that's a way to get in their life. And that's that borrowed trust that you're using. But the borrowed trust will only take you so far. Eventually, you got to earn your own trust and you got to provide your own value. And so I found that a lot of people that I was working with, just the way they talked about their value was just lame. They just didn't have good ways. They weren't clear. They were fuzzy, confusing, and they weren't getting the business. They would get introduced, but it didn't turn into new business. And so I realized that there was a need for this. And it took me 2 years to write the book because it's things I've been teaching for a long time, but when you want to get it crystal clear in a book in a way that's really relevant and valuable to other people, it certainly takes some time. And I interviewed a lot of people, so there's a lot of stories in the book of folks who use these strategies to build their business.
Now, okay, what I want to do is I want to share with the listeners a reverse tip. This is a tip you shouldn't do. And then, Josh, I'd like to have you share with the listeners what you do and how you explain to people when they ask you. And then, Corey, the same thing, because you guys have been doing things the right way at Living Water Irrigation for quite a while. I mean, Corey at Trinity Employment is sort of like the household name for hospitals that are looking to staff, quality professionals. They just think of Trinity. It's like synonymous at this point with employment, and Josh is becoming that way with irrigation. But what I started doing about, 7 years ago, Bill Gates, twin brother of Bill Gates at Rhymes, when I would get on airplanes, I realized I was always picking up business. Bill, because the guy next to you asks, what do you do?
Right.
And I would say, I own several multi-million-dollar companies and I help grow them. And then they would say, well, how do you do it? I mean, this has happened all the time. And I'd say, well, I go through a linear process. It's like a 13-step process, and I, draw it out for them. And they're like, oh, man. And I got a ton of clients that way. But at a certain point, once we got full, I could only take on 160 clients. I realized I need to quit doing that. So I started dressing like a jackass, which is now my new outfit. So I started wearing like oversized basketball shorts, and I have a ridiculously old Denver Broncos hoodie that I got at the game years ago. Beautiful. And this thing is just tattered and torn. And nobody would talk to me. And I didn't get any referrals. I call it reverse networking. And now I continue to wear a basketball shorts. Andrew, you can speak to this in a Boom jersey
every day.
And it's fun because new people will come in. They'll come in town this week for the conference, and they never ask me for help because they think the only time that someone's ever asked me. I recently was at Priority Bank, closing on a deal, and the gentleman at the front, the banker who was going to be helping me with my account for a big purchase, I was his number one client of the month kind of thing. He said, would you like to help me move the furniture? Are you the furniture guy? It goes over there. True story. He goes, it's over there. Do you need help moving that? It's going to be over there. We're going to bring that in right there. Because I guess they were expecting a delivery. And I said, that's cool. And I said, who do you think I am? He says, well, you're the mover guy, right? And I'm like, yes, this is reverse networking. This minimizes conversations. This says I am not in business. Do not try to. But Josh, you are still getting business. You're growing you're open for business.
Yes, sir, we are.
So what do you say to people when they say to you at a casual networking event, at some kind of get together, and someone says, Josh, what do you do for a living? What is your elevator pitch? How do you convey that? Because you do a very good job at that.
So our really quick, really short elevator pitch is we provide true and revolutionary customer service. So we realized a huge problem with contractors, or that was missing in our industry, is, and it's so very simple, is we show up when we say we're going to show up.
Oh, get out of here.
We show up early. We show up with tucked in shirts. We look clean. We look nice. We follow up, and we do quality work, and we show up even after we get your money. So it's so simple, and it's so, when we started with you and trying to figure out our niche and where we were going to go and identifying our clients, we realized there was no one. I'm not going to say no one. There's very few contractors out there: plumbers, carpenters, electricians, roofers, pool guys.
Well, Inc. magazine shows 96% of businesses fail within a decade. So maybe 4% of people out there get this idea.
So we truly, sincerely wanted to provide 5-star level service, and we've proven it over and over again. And it's the reason why we've gotten to where we're at on Google. It's the reason why we've gotten to where we're at as a company. It's because we truly care about.
When I ever introduce you, I always say, "This is Josh Wilson with Living Water Irrigation." He was the guy on the Kelly Clarkson show and Good Morning America. He has the most reviews of anybody in Oklahoma for the sprinkler systems. Now, Corey, how do you introduce yourself? When people ask you, what do you do? because you do a very good job. You're a master networker.
Man.
You network. When you're amongst the people, it's like a skilled fisherman. I mean, you reel them in. What kind of things do you say?
Well, if I can, I do everything I can to tell our story, and because it can be very, very simple, and people really relate to a story. And I like to tell them that a long time ago, I used to use staffing firms all the time. We had to because we were such a big business, and they drove me crazy because they were trying to do a quantity type of a model.
The staffing firms drove you crazy.
The other staffing firms did, and I knew that if people would really shift their focus to quality, it would make such a big difference. And then that usually it gets them to ask me questions about how we do that. And then I get to explain some of the details of what it is that we do that people appreciate.
Now, Bill, in your book, you write about crafting an irresistible message. I've seen Corey do this through stories countless times. Anytime that I've had a client run into Corey, they start talking. He gets into his core story. He talks about how he got started. People love it. They can relate to it. It is a true story. They remember him because of the story, which is one of the reasons I believe Jesus talked in stories, for those of you who believe in Jesus. And if you don't, that's fine. The reason why the stories work great, TED Talks are typically a story format. They catch on. They go viral. Stories are sticky. Talk to me about how do you craft an irresistible message?
Yeah, and you were alluding to it right there. It's your why. It's why you believe in your value, and it could be why you started the business. It could be why you're still in the business. It could be why you believe in the work you do now more than ever before. If you work for another company, it could be why you're with that company versus a different company. But your why, in terms of the experience that you provide to your client or customer, it draws people in, just like you're saying. And in fact, I've got a couple of chapters in the book around the brain science and whatnot. And people, actually, the brain listens and processes stories differently. That's why they're sticky. And it makes you more human at the same time, right? So for the gentleman who says, like most contractors, they don't show up on time, they don't tell you they're going to be late. Yeah, we're the exact opposite of that, right? Because I used to hate that when I hired people. It's the same idea, same thing with staffing. It's often for a business, the founder, why the founder started the business is often the story that you go with, and it's intriguing, and people like that. And when you're passionate about what you do, when you're on a mission, when you're mission driven through the work that you do, then that's very attractive. That's sticky. People like to be around people that are on a mission. And so telling that why is a big should be part of, maybe not the elevator pitch, but right after. For example, let me tell you why I believe in the work we do. And that's what people really listen to.
I have a phrase that I tell my clients all the time. I'm pretty proud of it. It's something I've worked on, and it's very complicated. It sucks to suck. It just sucks to suck. I mean, it just does. I mean, it's unless you're selling vacuums. That's my little kicker there. Now, you write here, I think you've been maybe more articulate. You've thought about it. You say in Radical Relevance, you write about reaching more prospects. If you want to reach more prospects, you need to add more value. You need to up the game if you don't want to be lame. I mean, if you want to grow, you got to do more. Talk to me about reaching more prospects, adding more value. How do you do that? And then I want to get Josh's take on this too, because I know in Living Water, it's crazy. Josh gets all these referrals from people, and it's like, we love rich people here at the Thrive Time Show. We love it. That's the goal, is to help people become rich people. And these rich people start talking. They go, "This guy showed up on time.
Well,
they did a great job. Who is he?" It's almost like you don't. It's like you don't want to share your babysitter's name, Bill. You know what I mean? Because you might lose the babysitter. So it's like a reluctant referral. It's like it's Josh Wilson.
I tell a story in the book about a friend of mine is a painter who charges like twice as much as any other painter, but he's got a niche market, which is affluent neighborhoods in a certain county around Washington, D.C. And he shows up at the house, and the homeowner says, I hear you're really expensive. And then they say, but I hear you're really good. So here's where I want you to start. It's like they know he's expensive. People brag about the fact that he's expensive.
Yep.
And, people with a lot of money, sometimes not all, but like to brag about the fact they spend a lot of money, right? So to answer your question seriously, though, sometimes we attract more people by subtraction. And what I mean by that is by getting crystal clear on who a right fit client is, who our target market is, and who the bullseye is, right? And when you try to be too many things to too many people, what happens is your messaging gets weaker. The biggest mistake I've found is when people create a website,
Yes.
all of that, right? They say, oh, I don't want to miss these people, and I don't want to miss these people, and so it waters it down.
Oh, preach it. Just preach it. I'm giving you the preaching music. You just bring it home. This is good. This is good. Bring it, Bill.
Yeah, so I mean, you gotta have a clear, narrow market, and that's the beautiful thing about this country of ours. It's so big, and there's so many people that can fit into the market. Now, the market has to be big enough, and you have to be able to sustain your success. And you can have more than one target market, but make sure that when you promote to each of those, you promote to each of those separately. You don't try to promote to all 3 target markets in one message, because then you'll just be confusing people.
Now, you might not have realized what just happened here, but inside the box, there was inside the studio here, inside the Man Cave Studios, which is connected to the Lampoon Lagoon, on the banks of the Lampoon Lagoon, near the Man Cave here. We had an incredible moment that just occurred. You could sense it almost. It was Wes Carter with Winters and King, the law firm that represents Brother T.D. Jakes, Pastor Craig Rochelle, and other literary wonders, has just entered into the studio. Wes Carter, how are you, sir?
I'm amazing. How are you?
Well, we're interviewing Bill Cates. Sounds like Bill Gates, but not. But in many ways better, because he teaches our clients to become rich here, okay? He's talking to his book here called Radical Relevance, and we're talking about how you want to go after the right clients. And I've referred Wes Carter a lot of clients over the years, and I'm convinced that I now know who's a good referral and who's not.
Yes.
So I'm gonna read off who I think is a good client for you, and you tell me whether I'm being accurate or not. Okay.
All right.
Is that mic at a good level for you? You feel good about that, Mike?
This has worked just fine.
Okay. So Wes Carter, you prefer people that have an actual business, not a potential business. Am I correct?
Yes.
Would you go on the record with that? You said just general rule.
Yeah,
you
or
prefer.
they're ready to start one.
Do you prefer people that understand the concept of showing up on time for your initial consultation? Do you prefer that?
That's always preferable.
What about when someone shows up 15 minutes late for the 15-minute consultation? How does that go over?
Well, we try to be compassionate, but it's a little tough scheduling those. Yes.
Now your organization represents the literary works of President Trump's son, Don Jr. Am I correct? Is that correct?
Yes, Tom worked with Donald Jr. on his most recent book.
And he's represented Pastor Joel Osteen back in the day for his book.
He did Joel's first book, correct?
Pastor Craig Groeschel.
Does Craig's books right now, yes.
Joyce Myers.
Joyce Meyer, correct.
Brother T.D. Jakes.
Brother Jakes for a long time, yes.
So would you like to work with the far progressive left? Is that your niche? Am I picking up the far left regions of the left, or are you in the moderate and right, or all right? Or tell me who you work with.
Well, I mean, we have clients that fit the entire spectrum, but we definitely our niche is the conservative area of politics, I guess you would say.
But I'm saying this because, Bill, you just mentioned this. Like at our conference, we had to niche down, and Julia finds this to be funny. I'm sure if she hears this show, she'll laugh. But people will go, "I loved the conference. I'm coming back next time and bringing my whole staff." And I say, no.
Yeah.
Because employees hate me. They do.
That's an accurate statement.
They hate me.
True story.
No, they do, because we're talking about, like, you should fire people that don't, show up on time and honor your checklist and stick within the org chart. You should promote people that get the job done and treat them unfairly in a great way if they show up early and get the job done. And you need to be accurate and honest and on time every day. You got to dress to impress. You got to bring that energy. We talk about that. And so I know my niche is entrepreneurs, people that own a business. Who's your target market there, Mr. Bill Cates?
Well, my target market is most people in professional services. I do a lot of work with financial advisors, with banks, with consultants, folks that think in terms of clients versus customers. So people that are transactional in their nature is not usually my fit. They usually have a consultative sales method, and they stay in touch with their clients over a long period of time. That tends to be the people I work most with.
I want to go through how I encourage my clients to add value to their business if they're a brick and mortar business, and you can argue with me, Mr. Bill Cates, okay? I'm just going to tee up some things I walk with my clients through if they own a brick-and-mortar business. So we'll go. Have you guys been to Barbie Cookies? Have you been to Barbie Cookies?
I just got delivered some Barbie's cookies as a thank you
High
this
five.
afternoon.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So Barbie Cookies, have you been there before, Corey?
All the time.
Have you been
I
there?
did an entire marketing scheme.
Okay. Well, I wanted to queue up. I mean, have you been there, Josh?
I have not, sir.
I know there's a lot of listeners out there that want to cheer for me, so I'm going to do it. Here we go. When I first met her, she had a building that was kind of in the armpit of a shopping center, and there wasn't a specific theme there. There wasn't a theme yet. It was kind of like we're working through it. We're a startup. We make good cookies, but they're not all named. They don't have a unique name. And if all the listeners go to barbiecookies.com, you can see my handiwork. They all didn't have a name, so we named them all. We took photos of them all. We designed the layout of the store, and then this is the stuff we get into. I encourage all the listeners to be intentional about the following areas. The sites, the visuals, all the menu boards, the flat screens, the pricing, the business cards, all that. Make sure it looks great. Just think about your business right now. Does it look great? Second, the overhead music. You got to have a plan. So when you go into Winters and King, it's a law firm where you guys are a professional. It's sort of a reverent tone you're trying to do because you're thinking, you're writing, you're doing depositions, right? I mean, that's what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely not a party atmosphere.
But you go into Barbie Cookies, it's cookies. So we made a playlist. I don't know what they're doing now, but we made a playlist of up-tempo music from the 50s, 60s, 70s, up-tempo, positive music. Then the smells. I'm like, waft that smell. Seriously, get the smell wafted like they do at Disney so you can't resist it. 4, the taste. Give people a sample. Give them an ample sample that their mind almost can't handle. Give it to them. And then script the interaction. And, man, the sales did well. And I thought, let's cue up audio. This is her telling the story because what Bill's teaching us is 100% right. This is Barbie sharing the story, Cat Barbie sharing her story. It's a 52-second story. This is her talking about the growth year over year. Let me cue this up real quick here. This year's sales for this week.
So this is the same week last year.
She's showing us the receipts.
Look.
What is that? I can't really tell. One is...
Look.
Michael, can we just I was want to get it. Jason, can you kind of pull this end maybe, just so you can see it? Let's kind of pull it that way.
Yeah,
Let's get the length.
job,
It's more of a. I can't tell the length. It's hard to tell.
Look at that. Okay.
So that's last year's sales.
This is last year's sales.
Here we go.
And the total is a mere $4,711. $4,773. Same week this year, 2015. The total is, read it, Michael.
$11,313.50.
Oh, boom. Oh, this just in, it works. But by default, we're not intentional. Our bathrooms don't have a theme. Our office doesn't have a decor theme. Our overhead music is random. Talk to me about this. For all the restaurant owners listening, for all the physical retail owners, for all the people that have an office, talk to me here, Bill, about the importance of adding value to the friendly confines you call your office.
Well, it's all about an experience that you create, right? And people love to have a great experience, and it's all about the emotional connection you make with people, and you do that with music, you do that with smell, you do that with sights. Actually, to get a little serious here, there's a study done by a guy named Antonio Damasio who discovered that at the core of every single decision every human makes is emotion. He studied subjects that had the part of the brain that was damaged, and so they couldn't feel emotion. And without the ability to feel emotion, they couldn't make a decision. They run their life with like checklists and out of habits. And so this is what you're doing. You're creating an experience that's on the emotional, visceral level in terms of a retail establishment.
Yep.
And people love that, and they want to be around that. And then they can make decisions better because they're feeling good about it.
I don't want the show to get too rabbit trailed, but Wes, do you as a lawyer, have you ever read books about neuroscience? Do you ever get into that? Do you care about that, or is that something you ever?
I have a little bit. I have a client that does some really interesting neuroscience topics, so we've looked at that a little bit.
What I want all the listeners to do is look up the name of this person. We had her on the show, Dr. Lori Santos. Her show's coming out on the 30th of December. She has a class she teaches at Yale, which is the most popular class in the history of Yale, called Psychology and the Good Life. The class has over 500,000 people now enrolled, virtually all over the country. It's the most popular ever. And she found that the average person, now these are facts, okay, from Nielsen. The average person now is interrupted or interacting with their smartphone 11 hours per day. And they don't have the stats on what percentage of the interruptions are negative, but we'll just say it's some. You know, the comparison on the Facebook, the jealousy, the former employee, former client, the irate. You know, there's always somebody. There's an uncle you don't want to talk to. There's also the wife you do want to talk to. There are the kids you do want to talk to. There's the sales leads you want. But that emotion going back and forth, it's called the amygdala. It's the almond-sized part of the brain. And they have found that the number one key to being happy, period, turn your smartphone off. That's like the whole class. I mean, there's all this stuff that goes into it, but at the end of it, it's like, what do we do? There's the happiness lab. There's neuro things they put on the brain, those little electrode things on the brain. They monitor your brain. They talk about dopamine and serotonin. They talk about how when you click the like button, you get a rush, like if you're gambling. Ding, 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 like you're taking a hit on a cigarette. It's the same feel. But at the end of the day, you want to be happy, turn the smartphone off. That's just it's like crazy that like at the end of the class, that's the summary of the whole thing. And I'd like to talk to you about this. What are some negative emotions we might be putting out as a business owner right now, Bill, that we might maybe we're not aware of? What are some negative client repelling things we're putting out into the cosmos, into the atmosphere that may be repelling our ideal and likely buyers without even knowing it?
Yeah, I'd say two. Number one, we show up really busy. Too busy. Just, you know, it's when, even with friends, you know, people call us, how you doing? Oh, just a crazy day. I just can't keep up. You know, what message are you sending? You're too busy to take referrals from those people, right? So sometimes too busy. And the other was, look how successful I am. Sometimes we send the message, especially in the relationship to the work I do with referrals and creating introductions, is when we show up done, if you will, if we show up like we're really successful, then people don't feel like, you know, there's any need to help us, even though they'd love to help us. But, you know, why help? He's got it all figured out. She's got it all figured out. So those are two I see right away. You know, a sense of arrogance or showing up too successful almost.
Wes, in Bill Cates' book here, Radical Relevance, he talks about how some entrepreneurs have made the mistake of growing their business by taking on a lot of difficult to work with clients. They become non-profitable clients, but ironically, they take the most time and they produce the least profits. So I'd like to go from you to Josh and to Corey, and then we'll come back here to Bill because I want to have Bill's take on this. As an attorney, do you agree with this? I mean, have you seen this where it could be easy for you if you're not careful about pulling the weeds, that you could fill up a client list with people that are unprofitable and time-consuming?
Absolutely. You know, I do in my own personal practice try to get those people out and train my staff to push those people somewhere else from the very beginning of the relationship. Because if they're going to be difficult in the first 10 minutes,
oh boy,
just imagine what it's like a year from now. And as Bill talked about, I mean, our goal is to have very long-standing, lifelong relationships with these clients. And so, you know, if you can't stand each other in the first 10 minutes, or you know, there's just some people you talk to that just exude negativity.
That's what they do.
I'm on the phone and it's a husband and wife yelling and screaming and cussing at each other. Oh, yeah. I don't want to live the next 2 years of my life in that dynamic.
Funny client story. We had a young lady on our team who was a consultant, and she's one of our one-on-one Make Your Life Epic coaches. And I felt so bad for her because she's a young lady, probably 25. You know, and she's got the marriage ideal in her mind. And she hasn't been around a lot of clients, you know, like I have. Because, again, we do, like this week we had 28 clients. People reach out to become clients. And we only have spots for one right now. So it's Julia's job is to vet them all. And then if they're a good fit, I write the business plan. So this guy comes in for his 13-point assessment. And this young lady who would be coaching them is shadowing me. I think I'm getting a little feedback there. Are you good there, Bill? You hear me? You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, yeah. So the guy... I said, well, tell me about your business. What are your plans to grow the business? And I pointed to him. I said, sir, what's your plans? I was very clear about who I was asking. And he said, well, we have such and such business, and we want to grow. We want to double the business this year. And then she says, side comment, yeah, so our marriage can get worse.
Oh, God.
So I'm kind of like, whoa. Now, the young lady who is the potential consultant, she's thinking like, is this normal? Now, unfortunately, in husband-wife businesses, this could be, Wes, this could be the normal.
It's not uncommon.
Not uncommon. So I said, well, so you're telling me that your goal is to grow and your goal is to not grow. She goes, can you take it with us? Is that something you teach us how to do? And she just is bitter because he is rich and he's never home. And I'm going, I think we're done here. I think what we have determined is that the no-grow zone is where we're at right now. And this guy was pissed. So now he goes into ape mode, which is apparently where he operates. So he's like, are you kidding me? And he's just going off. And poor young lady with me, this is like her first couple weeks with me. And she's just like, and she's the tears start happening. His wife starts crying. She's crying. It's like kind of when someone vomits. Some other people vomit too. Yeah. It's just like it's contagious. And I'm like, you got to go. What's interesting is he calls me back the next day to chew me out, to tell me I have to take him on, or he's going to tell people bad things about me.
Oh, that's nice.
Nice.
I'm like, have you ever had that, Wes, where somebody, you decide they're not a good fit, and then they want to argue with you about why they are a good fit?
Yes.
What is that?
You know, one of the other clients I see, and this is purely anecdotal, I don't have any scientific evidence, but the clients that from the very first conversation want you to do something at like 20% of your normal price, and, you know, do me a favor, you know, or let's negotiate the price down. I'm all for doing a fair price. But my experience is the clients that don't value the work you're going to provide, those are the clients that are going to call you 15 times in an hour.
Yes,
that's right. And they're going to make you work so much more.
Yes. Every invoice you send them, they're going to try to nickel and dime. And, I mean, you have to have a mutual respect for I need to bring value to you as the provider. But at the same time, you have to value the services I'm going to provide you, or it won't be a healthy relationship.
So, Bill, what are the steps for getting clients? If I'm listening to this show right now and I'm not where Josh with Living Water is right now, I'm not in a successful place. I mean, Josh grew from $300,000 of revenue to conservatively, we'll say $1.8 million in the last 2 years. That's awesome. I mean, Corey Mentor's grown by, I think, 34%, we said this year, 35%.
We're probably going to be around 40 this year.
Oh, awesome. Shunda. Awesome. So these guys are ballers. These guys are listening to Bling Bling on the way in here today. But for guys out there who are, you know, their business is stagnant, what steps would you encourage people to take to go in there and bring in the big clients?
Well, if your business is stagnant, the first thing you need to do is talk to your clients, and you need to check our customers, and you got to see what's working and not working, because there's something not working. Every business should be getting creating a certain amount of growth just through word of mouth or introductions by virtue of doing a great job. And if you're not getting that organic, unsolicited referrals and recommendations, then you're not referable. So the first thing to do is you got to be super referable, and that's by creating this incredible experience that I'm sure Josh and Corey and Wes do for their clients.
Yeah.
And it's that's almost the price of being in business, is doing an incredible job. In fact, distinguishing yourself from other businesses by saying, we give great service and we really care about our clients, that's not a differentiator. You better be doing that. That's like the price of being in business. But then, after that, if you are doing some good there and you're getting some clients, by unsolicited referral, then you want to ask. Then you want to be proactive. The problem is most people just don't ask for introductions. They don't ask for help to reach more people. Be on a mission to bring your value to other people and ask for their help to help others, right? You're asking for help to help others. And I teach a thing called a value discussion. It's something you should have with every client almost every time you get together. What's working? Anything not working? What is working? How do I continue to earn your business? And that will often create unsolicited referrals without even asking, just that value check-in. But that's the starting point to ask referrals and introductions. And most people don't do that.
I have a quick anecdotal thing from this controversial book known as the Bible. James, I'll just whisper, James, the book called James, which a lot of people are offended by. I know. The book of James, chapter 4, verse 3 says, when you ask, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures. I'm just saying this is if you're out there and you read the Old Testament and you're down with Hebrew, or maybe you're not. Maybe you say, I'm not down with the Hebrew. I don't know what that means. Well, the Hebrew was the original language that the Bible was written in, and we had the Rabbi Daniel Lapin on the show, Rabbi Daniel Lapin on the show, and I asked him the origin of certain words. I said, sir, what does the word work mean in Hebrew? I want to know. And I already knew, but I want him to talk about it on the show so our listeners could learn. He said, well, in Hebrew, the word work means worship, and the word worship means work. Work and worship are the exact same word. And the word money means a certificate of appreciation. So therefore, if you work as though it's your worship, therefore you will receive a certificate of appreciation. So just real quick, if you're listening out there, I know none of our listeners ever mail it in when it comes to quality, but if your quality sucks, it sucks to suck. So before you ask for the referral, let's make sure that we're not terrible, because I guarantee you if you sat down with a one-on-one consultation with Mr. Bill Cates, he would make sure your quality's awesome before asking for those referrals. Am I correct there, Bill Cates?
Yeah, you got to be referable. You got to create a great experience.
Now, a final question I have for you. You come across as a very proactive man, the kind of man who would write a book like Radical Relevance, which means that you have done some preparation. You've built some websites. One is multiplyourbestclients.com. That's multiplyourbestclients.com. What is on that website?
It's actually simple. It's just a gift for your listeners. It's a report that gives you 5 strategies about how to multiply your best clients. And it's a quick read, but I think you'll find it helpful.
Radical Relevance book.com. RadicalRelevanceBook.com. What's that website all about?
Yeah, that just tell you what's in the book and see if it's right for you. So, you can read what's in it, what we talk about, and if it makes sense, pick up a copy. Now, if you get the book, you then get access to the Radical Relevance Toolkit. So we've created a ton of other guides and scripts and checklists and tools that relate to what we talk about in the book. So once you get the book, then you get access to the Radical Relevance Toolkit.
I just bought a copy of Hooked on Seafood, which you've already sold 400,000 copies of. Would you recommend, are you doing like a combo package where if we buy a Radical Relevance, do we get a free copy of Hooked on Seafood, or is it buy 2 for the price of 2? What's your special going on?
Well, Hooked on Seafood will cost you $1 million from me because I only have 1 copy left.
Man, that book is...
I have to say that one's not for sale.
Okay. Now, you do come across as a proactive person. How do you spend the first 4 hours of every day?
Oh, it's funny. I get up early, and the first thing I do actually is I spend about a half an hour processing emails from my director of marketing because she gets up earlier than I do. And so I spend the first hour just getting her what she needs from me so she can do her job. And then I've created, like you've heard the expression that President Trump has his executive time. I like that. I created my own executive time. And so I have 2 hours in the morning where I take a leisurely breakfast. I go to the gym. I just relax. I chill. I mean, I can't do this every single morning, but most mornings I have that time, and I try not to schedule any phone calls before 10 o'clock. So I have that executive time in the morning to just get started in a slow, leisurely pace rather than getting that adrenaline rush too quickly, because there's plenty of time for that adrenaline rush later.
You help our clients generate a lot of extra money. Do you recommend that all of our listeners listen to Bling Bling by Baby, Lil Wayne, Manny Fresh, and Juvenile? Do you recommend that? Is that a law of attraction kind of a tip?
I'm not that familiar. My daughter listened to Lil Wayne a little bit when she was younger, and but I can't tell you that I know a lot about it.
This needs to be your new theme song. I'm telling you what, folks, if you want to get rich like Bill Gates, call Bill Cates. Bling, bling. Unbelievable. Sir, I appreciate your time so much. Thank you for letting us, get into WKRP. Thank you for letting us get into Bling, bling. Thank you for letting us get into your deep, dark knowledge of seafood. I mean, really, do you have a favorite seafood? Do you have a favorite seafood entree you'd like to share with the listeners as we wrap up? I'm very curious.
Man, I live in Annapolis, Maryland. It's crab cakes. Annapolis, Maryland crab cakes. There's nothing better.
Have you been? Are you a New England Patriots fan? Do you dislike the Patriots?
Well, my brother-in-law is a Patriots fan, so I don't really dislike him except for when he's around.
Well, let me say this: Bill Belichick, his favorite restaurant is in Annapolis, Mission Barbecue. Have you been there?
Yeah, it's a chain, Mission Barbecue. Sure.
You like Mission Barbecue?
Yeah, it's good. They do they sing the national anthem at noon every day,
which lets people know their mission, which is why people refer people, which is why Bill Belichick insisted on doing his CNBC interview there, where he actually talks to a member of the media. Wes,
that's rare.
Do you think that Bill was taping the Bengals? Do you feel like that was happening? There's a recent allegation that his team has been filming the Bengals. Do you believe that?
I believe 2 things. One, that he had no idea what was going on. And 2, he let someone have it when he found out that some video crew was out there. And the last thing they need right now with 2 back-to-back losses is another scandal.
Well, it just came out 5 hours ago. Patriots coach Bill Belichick filming of the Cincinnati Bengals, not a football issue. Sports Illustrated says, your move, Goodell. NFL should punish the Patriots for taping the Bengals. Now, listen. Before the listeners judge Bill Belichick, think about this, okay? We all have a speed limit. The speed limit driving here was probably 65 for most of y'all. 65 was it on the hot?
65, 70.
Yeah, so the speed limit, though, is 65, which
45
means,
for me.
But, I mean, the limit, right, that's the speed limit means the maximum. But we all drive like 66, 67, 68, and we don't feel like we're speeding until we go 70. You know what I mean? Bill is testing the limits of football coaching abilities. He is that kind of – I love testing the boundaries and just a few suspensions here or there. But, we love Bill Belichick. We love Bill Cates. Really, we love people named Bill. Do you go by William ever, or it's always Bill?
No, just when I was younger, my mother was mad at me. It'd be William, but otherwise it's Bill.
All right. Well, Bill Cates, thank you so much. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, bud. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
And now, without any further ado, we'd like to end each and every show with a boom. And if you are psychologically prepared, I know that I am. Let's do this. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom.
Hey, this is Charles and Amber Koloff. We're the owners of Koloff Fitness, and
we really want to be with you at the Thrive Conference this weekend. It's one of our favorite things to do, but we're gone on a cruise last minute for this big guy's birthday. And the way we're able to do that is working with Clay for the last 3 years. He has really readjusted our thinking and taught us that our business is here to serve us. And by doing that, we're able to live the lifestyle we want and take off on a random vacation last minute. So we had totally planned on being at the conference. So wish we could be there and meet all of you. We know you're having a great time. So
yes, Clay in the last 3 years has helped us build all the necessary systems, checklists, workflows, task lists, time blocks, audits that are always running, and the right capable lieutenants to keep track of all that so that you too can get time freedom, financial freedom. And that's what we have done, and Clay has helped us do. We've got multiple companies in multiple states, and they're all doing very well, getting ready to go 2 more locations in this next year. And Koloff Fitness has a really big future. We're teaming up with a couple other groups, and we should scale the company here shortly. Hopefully we'll open like 50 locations in the next 10 years. So, but yeah, we're on the way. We're gonna probably more than double our company, maybe triple our company in the next 8 to 9 months. And it's just awesome. God is working in our business, and we're making Jesus and changing lives. We're a strong Christian company that focuses on making Jesus famous and changing lives in the fitness field. And this is Charles and Amber Koloff. Thank you, Thrive. Hit your action items. We love you guys. Yeah. We wish we were there. You guys have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.